The last 18 months have seen something of a renaissance for the high-octane big-budget B-movie. From the hyperreal monster mashup of Kong Skull Island to the on-a-gal-against-the-ocean thrills of Joan Colliser's The Shallows, to trashy superhero epics such as Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad, the multiplexes have been invaded with low-concept, semi-infantilized cinema. It is no surprise to discover that Hollywood executives are currently greenlighting movies based on the whims of 4-year-olds, because most of the above films could have been dreamt up, at least in terms of their basic concept, by small children. Not that this is necessarily a bad thing for those of us who love genre fare. The entire blockbuster era was ushered in when Hollywood began looking for counter-programming to the auteur filmmaking of the 1970s, and for all its faults it has delivered myriad examples of totemic cinema. Steven Spielberg's Jaws is a B-movie in all but name, right down to the giant rubber shark that features as the antagonist. Likewise, 1977's Star Wars is the kind of for-out boys-own space romp that would and could only have been made as a cheap throwaway for the drive-ins and grindhouse theaters just a few years previously. In 2017, Hollywood is even remaking classic B-movies. Godzilla vs. Kong, due in 2020 from Death Note's Adam Wingard, is being pitched as the climactic episode in Legendary Entertainment's current MonsterVerse, which kicked off with Gareth Edwards' middling 2014 entry Godzilla and gave us Skull Island earlier this year and one final entry to come, 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. This surely only exists because Godzilla's Japanese rights owner, Toho, had a major local hit in 1962 with its own King Kong vs. Godzilla, a movie that remains a trashy joy more than half a century later for its decision to have both monsters, typically for Toho, played by men in cheap suits. Wingard's challenge with Godzilla vs. Kong is how to embrace the B-movie silliness of the versus concept while somehow giving us more than just two giant creatures beating the bejesus out of each other for 2 hours. It's a tough call, because any film that pitches itself to audiences on the basis that they will get to see two iconic characters locked together in mortal combat immediately hamstrings itself as a work of cinema. We've seen it time after time over the past decade or so. The original Alien movies were notable as much for the finest female action hero of all time, Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley, as for their introduction of H.R. Giger's multi-jawed space monstrosities. Likewise, John McTiernan's Predator would have been nothing without Arnold Schwarzenegger spouting one-liners and caking himself in jungle mud to take down the titular extraterrestrial hunter. However, few will even remember who played the human onlookers in the duo of insipid versus movies 2004's Alien vs. Predator and its even weaker 2007 sequel Alien vs. Predator Requiem, that followed. A different, yet in some ways similar, problem helped torpedo Dawn of Justice last year. Zack Snyder and his team spent so much time trying and failing to conjure up a convincing reason for Ben Affleck's Batman to have crossed Henry Cavill's Superman off his Christmas card list, that they forgot to make us care about either of the muscle-bound super titans. It's hard to blame the film's ostensible screenwriter, the Oscar-winning Chris Terrio. When a studio has already made the decision to sacrifice two of its greatest properties on the altar of box office success, organic storytelling becomes rather less vital than toy sales and fast food tie-ins. Man is not infallible. Tom Hiddleston and Samuel L. Jackson on Kong Skull Island. It's no coincidence that most versus movies these days end up on sci-fi, where expectation levels are significantly lower. These are often spin-offs of earlier B-movie style projects, exploitation begetting more exploitation. Dinocroc and Supergator both received their own movies before teaming up for a Royal Monster Rumble in Dinocroc vs. Supergator. The film was produced by B-movie king Roger Corman, who, like Toho before him, understood that high-quality special effects and elegant dialogue come second to the ersatz razzmatazz of seeing raging fantasy big beasts going head-to-head. The problem is that audiences expect something more from a visit to the multiplex, and there is no guarantee they will get it from Legendary's MonsterVerse. Skull Island was, for me, an improvement on the tonally mixed Godzilla, a movie that was super serious 1 minute, with French art house queen Juliette Binoche dying in front of horrified husband Bryan Cranston in a nuclear facility, then overly goofy the next, with a giant lizard virtually winking to the camera as he saves the Earth from rampaging mega-insects. While Jordan Vogt-Roberts' movie made decent capital out of veteran scenery chewers such as Samuel L. Jackson and John Goodman, it singularly failed to provide any memorable scenes whatsoever for two of the most vibrant young actors in Hollywood today, Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston as the ostensible leads. Part of the issue here is that Legendary's beasts are so huge that any humans in attendance can do little more than sit back and gawp like the rest of us once they hit center stage. Now imagine what one of these movies is going to look like when there are two gigantic creatures battling with their heads in the clouds, as there will be in Godzilla vs. Kong. Our Homo sapien heroes are sure to get lost in the debris of giant beastie feet crashing around at ground level. Where it began, 2014's Godzilla photograph courtesy of Warner Brothers. Picture a publicity image from film company. We'll have to wait at least 3 years to see whether Wingard can solve the multitude of problems thrown up by versus movies. In the meantime, he has at least promised to avoid fudging the age-old conundrum of which combatant should eventually come out on top. I do want there to be a winner, the filmmaker told You This Week. The original film was very fun, but you feel a little let down that the movie doesn't take a definitive stance. People are still debating now who won in that original movie, you know. So, I do want people to walk away from this film feeling like, okay, there is a winner. If Wingard really wants audiences to continue debating that little nugget in half a century's time, he may have more vital puzzles to solve. We all want to see these gigantic beasts flinging boulders and launching MMA moves on each other from the top of mountains, but if there's little to no interest in the human onlookers watching our two megalith combatants, audiences may struggle to remember Godzilla vs. Kong beyond the moment the multiplex doors swing shut behind them.